Hey guys, my name's Bloop, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys the first in partner with Trouble of many episodes and/or tutorials on the easy speedrun guide for Halo 3 ODST. Today we're going to be starting with Prepare to Drop, the first mission you play through in Halo 3 ODST. We're going to be explaining everything there is to know about it, starting from beginner, intermediate, as well as advanced strats for things like going for leaderboard times or world record type times. So to get things started here, I'm going to explain briefly on why we start from Prepare to Drop rather than Mombasa Streets. So, the reason we start from Prepare to Drop is not only do you play through the quote-unquote beginning of the game, you watch a couple cutscenes, and just like the original version, you have to play through these couple, or not play through, excuse me, you have to watch/skip through these couple cutscenes to get to the start of the mission. As well as if you start on a Rally Point Recon helmet, it's what's going to be called an open city, meaning you can do the missions in any order as well as skip some missions, meaning you don't have to play through all the missions before going to Data Hive and Coastal. Data Hive being the last mission before, or excuse me, Kikowani being the last mission you play through before going to Data Hive, which has a brief little streets mission in the middle of that. And yeah, if you do open city, you can skip through a lot of these missions. So that's the reason we play on PTD, is we do not have an any percent category here in Halo 3 ODST. We have a what's called a full game category, which, as the name implies, it's full game, meaning you would want to play through every single mission, as well as every single streets mission between every main mission. So all these little streets missions will also get their own tutorial, and yeah, just to kind of get things started on that. So we're going to be playing through Prepare to Drop today, and yeah, we're just going to get started on explaining how to get through this mission fast, how to get through it efficiently, as well as all the different strategies and whatnot that you can use to get through this mission. So without further ado, let's get this started and on to PTD. Alright, so I'm going to quickly talk about the funny little training prompt that we get at the start of PTD. Now, Trouble here, for example, he does not get the training prompt while I do. There's no explicit reason as to why people do and don't get the training prompt. The MCC version of this game can be a little bit janky sometimes, but it doesn't lose you any time regardless. So just to kind of keep that in mind is that some people will and some people won't get the training prompt. And as well as holding E to interact or get out of the pod, or holding your interact button to get out of the pod early. Now, I'm going to show an example here of not holding the interact key to get out of the pod and holding the interact key to get out of the pod early. So we'll show those kind of examples here to continue on. Alrighty, so here I'm going to explain more of an IL strat here called the cone launch, and as the name implies, you get a launch off a cone. So as you jump out of your pod here, there's going to be this upright cone near the light pole, and you use a frag grenade and launch off of it as such. Now I will add on, the reason this is an advanced strat is you need to hit a good cone launch and get a clear from the first set of enemies that is good enough to warrant the cone launch. If you don't, you have to reset and sit through that pod animation all over again. So just another little tidbit on that. Alrighty, so to get things started here, we're going to be actually talking about clearing this first wave of enemies. So as you go down the ramp after exiting the pod, you're going to come across this first group of enemies. Now, assuming you did the early exit method correctly, you should get to these enemies while they're still grouped up. And what you're going to do is throw 3 nades into the kind of middle of all these enemies to try and kill them all at once as such. And here I'm going to show an alternate strat with 2 frag grenades to do this first clear. Now, another thing I'm going to explain briefly here is if you do not kill all the enemies in this area at first, the grunts and brutes will likely start pathing up to these areas here. They start and they like to path to these kind of areas behind this little corner here, and then this upper group will like to go either here or there. they'll try and get away from you if you don't kill the first group of enemies fast enough, and sometimes when you do, the grunts will go down this way, as well as down this way. So you can miss them if you're just trying to go up here. So that is another thing to keep an eye on, is that if you do have hiding grunts or enemies, the spots that you'll kind of see them most likely go are in this corner, they'll go up here, or if they start coming back this way, they'll wander down here and here. So keep that in mind when going for the second clear, if you do happen to get the first clear a little slower. And then, yeah, that's just going to be a little bit of an explanation on kind of where the enemies like to hide, because if you can check these parts, if you don't get the phone prompt, which usually happens right about here, on this little guy right here, you'll be able to kind of search these areas and figure out kind of where they're all at. And it'll make your life a lot easier. Now I will mention for Clear 2, if you happen to get a bubble shield, that is no good. That is a 20-second invulnerable shield unless you hit the bubble itself that enemies like to hide into. As well as, after the second clear, you do not want to jump or melee to get a checkpoint to get the earliest phone possible based on your RNG. Alrighty, so to kind of explain, after when I explain where the enemies hide, I'm going to show a clear 1 to 2 example here, as well as methods to kill off brutes in the second clear. Here I'm going to kind of discuss on what methods you can use to take out brutes in the second wave, since you don't have very many grenades, if any grenades, going into the second clear. So one of them is to shoot and melee the brutes to death, and one of them is to also shoot and melee their shields down and then headshot them with a pistol. Another way is to backsmack them in a number of ways. One of them is to jump over them and backsmack them, like I'm showing here, and then another one is to sidestep them and backsmack them. And another method as well is to stick them with a grenade if you happen to get a grenade from one of the Covenant enemies here. Alright, so to continue on here, this phone, after you clear the second set of enemies, the second one from the right side, once you go up the ramp, will be the one that rings every single time. Now this phone has a random chance delay on it between 11 and I believe around 20 seconds. I'm not sure around the latter version of it, but at least your earliest phone you can get is 11 seconds in time. So this phone will be the one that rings every single time. This is the one you'll go to continue the mission onto the courtyard area, which I'll be getting into shortly, and it'll always ring after you clear the second set of enemies. No sooner, no later. The second set of enemies need to all die in their entirety in order to move on. So just a brief explanation on the phone and kind of how that works. Alright, so the phone here, like I said, has a random interval attached to it. So what you're going to do is when that prompt pops up top, you want to click through it as fast as possible and you'll get your phone timer. Now, I did kill the enemies a little bit before starting this recording, so it did look like a fast phone, but the max phone you can get is a 11-second phone. Like, that's the best phone you can possibly get. So that's just another brief explanation on the phone there, just to kind of add on top of everything else. Alright, so here I'm going to show a more intermediate method of going through the courtyard here. What Trouble's going to do in this clip is he's going to throw a plasma and frag grenade to get a boost. And what this does is it gets you across the courtyard in a relatively fast amount of time. And I'm just going to show that off a couple of times, as well as the theater viewpoint of kind of where your grenades are supposed to go to get a successful launch in this case. So, here's that for you. Now I'm also going to show off an alternate method only using one frag grenade if you don't feel comfortable doing the plasma frag method. stair boosting. So once you get past the courtyard area, you're going to come across a few sets of stairs, and if you have plasmas, you're going to do what's called stair boosting. You're going to throw your plasmas around this area that I'm showing, and you're going to walk up the stairs as the plasma is exploding, and you're going to jump up the second set of stairs to get a boost and save a little bit more time. This doesn't save a ton of time, but it all adds up in a level like this, so doing it is in your best interest to save as much time as possible. So once you get up the final set of stairs past the dead marine, you're going to come across this chair kind of leaning about here. And what this chair is it's going to allow you to do a trick called a Charpet, which basically can send you down the hallway pretty quickly. I'm going to show a few examples of from Trouble where he gets a successful Charpet. This is a more advanced strat, but feel free to try it at your own leisure. And now after learning Charpet, the more advanced, cool looking strat, we're going to show you kind of the end interact trick that we do. You can actually interact with the helmet through the corner of the geometry by meleeing, which extends your hitbox just a little bit in order to reach it. Typically you just want to walk around the corner and hit E or interact on the helmet to end the mission, but there is a small trick you can do to save just a little more time. You know, you never know when that tick back can come in handy to end the mission. And another thing is why we empty out our weapons. As you can see here, I have an empty SMG in my hand, which for the next Streets missions after completing Tayari, or whatever mission between the Streets missions, it'll give you a fresh set of nades and weapons to go into the next Streets with, which allows you to do more tricks, and it basically refills you on nades and stuff. So we take advantage of that to do more tricks and skips and all that fun stuff in the upcoming Streets missions. And last but not least, after explaining everything there is to know about PTD, then why we empty our weapons, all the little tricks, and all the things we do, I'm going to show off a no reset variant of the mission, which means this is typically what a beginner friendly PTD will look like. So, hope you guys enjoyed. This has been your easy speedrun guide on Prepare to Drop, and enjoy this no reset just to kind of show off what the level would look like. Peace.